Transportation and Mobility Committee of Cleveland City Council to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
McCormick.
Present.
Slight.
Present.
Bishop.
Here.
Ray. Here. Casey.
Present.
Moore.
Here.
Santana. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, and if you could please excuse Councilwoman Santana. Director, come on up. You want to hold 468?
Yes, please. Yes, sir.
All right. Madam Clerk, if we could please hold 468, 2024. All right. Director, 476, 2024, by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request, emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to employ one or more professional consultants to maintain, manage, secure, and promote city-owned properties at the North Coast Harbor and to fulfill the common area maintenance agreement with the stakeholders of North Coast Harbor for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew exercisable by the Director of Port Control.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. The Department of Port Control is responsible for the oversight of North Coast Harbor along the lakefront. There's a consortium of entities, including the city, which is responsible for operating, maintaining, securing, and promoting North Coast Harbor's public areas through the Common Area Maintenance Agreement. These services have been provided by the Downtown Cleveland Alliance since 2012. The current contract expires in February 2025, and we are seeking the ability to enter into one or more new contracts to provide these services for a period of 1 year with 3 one-year options to renew. In essence, we must go out to bid for these continued services. There's a list of contractual objectives the selected firm will be expected to meet, and it's included in your agenda report. The annual cost is anticipated to be $450,000. I have John Hoos, Assistant Commissioner of Airport Strategy, with me today, as he's extremely well-versed on this agreement and can address any questions you may have, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you, Director. Mr. Hoos, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Thank you. So to the airport team, very familiar with this arrangement. I guess my kind of big overlying question here is, you know, this is a 1-year contract with 3 renewal by the Director of Port Control. You know, the lakefront is thankfully in flux right now, right, with the new authority being established in the
Right.
lakefront and everything that's going on there. So I guess the question is, you know, how does that impact this as we go out for bid? And then I would ask the committee, because of all the changes on the lakefront, if we want to have this require additional legislative authority so that we can keep tabs on this one. That's up to the committee. But Director, if you can just speak to how Port Control is considering the changes that are happening on the lakefront.
Yes, sir. Well, what I would say is that we certainly would work in conjunction with the new entity and to ensure that we are sort of aligned in terms of our goals and that we're not stepping on one another, so to speak. So if there are any considerations going forward where there would need to be any involvement with the new entity, then certainly we would entertain that and would be open to that in the future.
Mr. Hoos?
I would just say that I've shared kind of the scope and timeline of the contract with Director Skinner, so he's aware of it and asked for any feedback as far as if he would like to add to the scope. So we're in regular communications about it, and he is aware of us going out for this procurement. So.
All right. So if it pleases the committee, we're going to entertain a amendment to this piece of legislation. Councilman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, under Section 1 of Ordinance 476, 2024, line 8, after the Director of Port Control, if we can just add with legislative authority.
Does our Assistant Director of Law have that amendment? You're welcome. Is there a second on that amendment? Second. Councilman Bishop seconds that amendment. Is there any discussion? Councilman Slife.
Does the title need to be amended to reflect the same?
The title. You mean the summary?
Yes.
If we could have our Assistant Director of Law reflect that amendment within the summary as well. Any additional discussion? So for the viewing public, this would bring this back to council. Again, given the fluctuation on the lakefront, we want to make sure that we're following these contracts as well. Any additional discussion on the amendment? Opening up discussion on 476, 2024. Councilman Casey.
Mr. Chairman, to the director, this is just for the North Coast Harbor, correct?
Through the chairman to the councilman, yes, that is correct.
And why do we need a consultant to maintain, manage, secure, and promote the city-owned properties down there?
That is a long-standing agreement, as I understand it. Mr. Hoos, if you have more information on that.
Chair, to the councilman, there is a common area maintenance agreement, and it kind of stipulates in conjunction with those stakeholders, which include the Rock Hall, the Science Center, Cleveland Browns, Cumberland Lakefront Development, that we kind of collectively select and develop a strategy how to manage North Coast Harbor and maintain it. And kind of this is the direction they kind of prefer.
All right, Mr. Chairman, to the director, this comes out of SF 113, right? At least that's what it says in the thing.
Yes, if you'd like more information on exactly how we fund it, I did also bring Christine Gilmartin, my head of finance.
if we can.
speak to
Come
that.
on up, chief.
I thought it might come up, and so I
Right.
asked if she could join us today.
I can speak.
Thank
to
you,
it.
Councilman.
She's familiar with this table, so.
Right. So the question is that, is this come out of, does this come out of the enterprise fund from the airport, or is this general fund dollars? Mr. Chairman, to our CFO, right?
Yes, yes. Through the chair to the council person, yes. So neither is the answer. When we took over the Harbor Fund, it at one time had been part of the general fund, and that's when the Port Authority was helping and manage it. When it came back to the Department of Port Control, I established a special revenue fund so that the general fund balance goes away at year end. This is a special revenue fund, which means it's a multi-year fund. So we don't have a beginning balance and an ending balance like we do with our operating funds that we vet through the table with the council. So it's its own funding source. All the revenues collected go directly in for parking, for the CAM fees that are paid by the various members that John mentioned, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Browns. So they pay into the CAM. We put it all in this fund. We put all the revenues and all the expenses for utilities. There's light poles. There's some maintenance. It all comes out of this fund. It is a separate fund. It is not commingled at all with airport funds.
All right, Mr. Chairman, to our CFO, how much does this, you call it a CAM?
The agreement with the users of this area is a CAM agreement. That is the CAM agreement that's between the four, and I'm not sure, it used to be Good Time also. Are they still included, John?
The Good Time contributes to it, but they're not a voting member of the CAM.
Yeah. So that's an agreement, it's a consortium agreement between those members and the Department of Port Control.
And Mr. Chairman, to our CFO, this CAM consists of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Science Center, Cleveland Browns, and Good Time 2,
Good Time 3,
whatever,
and
Queen Elizabeth, whatever it is now.
Cumberland
That's a different
Development.
one. Lady Caroline is a
Oh,
different-
Lady
Wait,
Caroline,
there
or
is
whatever
one
it
more
is.
member.
Cumberland Development.
Cumberland Development?
Yeah.
And how much do they pay in, Mr. Chairman, to the CFO? How much does this CAM raise a year?
So John will have to speak to the annualized fee that we're at currently. I think it's based on their proportion of space. It used to be, that's why the Good Time, it was much lesser.
Chair to the councilman, it is roughly around $212,000 a year. And the contributions for the voting members are just equally split. So you take the expenses and you divide it by how, the CAM members. And
Okay,
that's how
well,
it's
Mr.
arrived.
Chairman, to the CFO, if it raises $212,000 a year, but this contract is for $450,000, where does the other $230,000, whatever it is, roughly come from?
The revenues that we collect for the camp. There are revenue generating, there's parking down on the waterfront, and so the parking generates revenue. We used to hold events. I'm not sure the last time we held one.
So the chair of the councilman, how it works is the city is responsible for capital repairs and promoting the space and property management. The CAM members are responsible for maintenance and repair. It's all spelled out in the CAM agreement, and that is what they contributed towards. So their 212 goes towards basically a clean and safe program that's very similar to how it works downtown. And then the balance is for marketing, our website, all the events we go down there, an on-site property manager, and then various capital repairs that come up. We're responsible. So that's where the balance of the other funds is.
So, Mr. Chairman, to the CFO, if I go and park down at Voinovich Park, right, and I pay the meter, and now the smart meter or whatever is down there, that money doesn't go to the city of Cleveland, it goes to the CAM?
The harbors.
The
Not to-
harbors.
Through the chair to the council president, I want to be clear, it's not, the CAM is the consortium. They don't own anything or get the revenue back. The harbor fund gets the revenue for revenues generated by the harbor. The CAM agreement is an additional revenue coming to the harbor fund. So they are paying for this agreement, to John's point, where they take, the agreement itself calls for the membership of the CAM to pay for certain expenses and the city to pay for certain expenses, but all the revenues come into the harbor fund, including the revenue paid to us by the CAM. The utilities come out. The CAM is just the agreement. It's what's the?
Common area maintenance.
Common area maintenance. It's just our agreement with them. My team bills them. We put it in the harbor fund, and then the agreement spells out what expenses they are responsible for, that they're paying us for, and what we are responsible. Any revenue generated outside of the CAM revenue does go into the harbor fund. You parking, going down, having dinner, that would go directly towards revenue for the harbor fund.
Okay, I didn't know we had such a thing, but this is very educational for us, I think.
Through the chair to the council, the reason I think this is so foreign is because this is not an annually appropriated fund, which all the budget hearings that we do are those funds. This is not. It's an unusual, it's an accounting, it's a government accounting, but it's a multi-year fund, so it just continues on. Every year we roll over the balance
Right,
and
yeah.
we just keep going.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm glad we added the amendment because it's going to be interesting with everything else that's going on
Along the lakefront.
down there, how this is going to
Yep.
affect this CAM. And Mr. Chairman, is there anything else set up like this in the city? Is there? This is kind of cool, I think. I mean,
Through the chair, we can send you a copy of the CAM agreement.
Can you?
I think that would be useful. It's just the agreement we have with the members. And I think if the council members wanted to take a look at that, because at the time we put, I was actually here when we put it together. It was a lengthy process that was initiated because of the Port Authority no longer wanting to have management of the harbors. So when we took this over, it was a lengthy process, meeting with these CAM members. It was led by Law down here. Andrea Papsik took the lead on that. And this is the final agreement. Now, it's been renewed since then, but I think that would...
When did that happen?
yeah, how long?
I want to say that happened right when I started at Port. I started in 10, so I would say it's probably 2011, and it was probably ratified maybe in 12.
And then, Mr. Chairman, just so we know, where are the boundaries of the North Coast Harbor? Where west and where east?
Generally speaking, we consider it West 3rd to East 9th Street.
Okay, so it's just right, includes the parking
On
The-
9th Street
on 9th Street
Nine,
to the west of the stadium?
to slightly to the west of the stadium, yes.
So
And
the pit, I think we call it the pit, and how far south does it come up?
Chair to the councilman, our parking assets for harbors are the parking lots north of First Energy Stadium, the East 9th Street Pier, and the parking lot that is south of North Marginal.
What about the parking lot just west of Cleveland Browns Stadium? Is that included?
That's the Port Authorities.
That's the Port Authorities. Okay.
And those walk areas that you walk through the chair, that's what we're calling the common area. They're like paved walkways. There's some lighting, but it's the areas that people are walking to get to these facilities. That's the actual common area that they share, that they're all paying into for maintenance.
Okay. Interesting, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the information. Thank you.
Thank you. And a couple quick questions and comments. One comment, the folks from the fire memorial reached out regarding, and I don't know who programs the events down there, but people putting tents and other infrastructure on their memorial. So if whoever is programming those, make sure that we don't put any tents or infrastructure on the memorial.
Yes, sir.
Just as a side note, thank you. And then the other thing I would say, and I don't know, Commissioner, if this is in your ballpark, but where are we at with the improvements that were scheduled for North Coast Harbor? I think it was like 4 million authorized or something like that.
We are underway. They started, they're starting on the bulkhead fixes, which is the north kind of perimeter of Voinovich Park. They started improving the areas along, we call it 9th Street extension. So they're doing it kind of in a fashion that we're able to keep most of the space open to the public.
Sure,
So
sure. Okay.
they are underway and expect it to kind of finish spring next year.
Great. That's great to hear. All right. Do I have any additional questions on 476-2024? Hearing none, 476-2024 is approved. Please. Oh. We're in the middle of an amendment. Man, thank you so much. All right, any addition? Thank you. Oh, wait, so we didn't vote on the amendment. We went. Okay. We're going to revert back to discussion on the amendment. Is there any additional discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
McCormick?
Yes.
Sly?
Yes.
Bishop?
Yes.
Ray? Yes. Casey?
Yes.
McCord?
Yes.
6 yes, no nays.
Thank you. The amendment passes. Thank you to our Assistant Director of Law for catching that. With that, Ordinance 476-2024 as amended stands approved. Please sign. Thank you. All right, Ordinance 523-2024 by Councilmembers McCormick and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to exercise the first option to renew lease agreement number CT 3001 LS 2022-0011 with Marken Kami LLC for the lease of office space at Burke Lakefront Airport for the operation of a software company. Director.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Port Control seeks to exercise the first option to renew this city contract with Marken Kami, which currently leases space at Burke's Terminal Building and has been a tenant since 2018. The current agreement covers approximately 429 square feet of space within which a software company is housed and operated. Marken Kami has been a great tenant and is in good standing with the city and wishes to continue its tenant relationship. It's currently operating under a new agreement with the annual rental rate, which will be adjusted for CPI at the beginning of each option term. The annual rental rate was set by an independent third party via a fair market value appraisal in late 2022. And this is the first option if the first option to renew is exercised, there will be 2 additional 1-year options remaining, and we ask for your approval of this item.
Thank you, Director. And you've predicted Councilman Bishop's questions on how these rental rates are established. So
Understandable. yes,
well
sir.
done. Okay, so renewing a lease at Burke. They're in good standing
Yes.
with you and your team?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have any questions on 523-2024? Hearing none, 523-2024 is approved. Please sign. All right, Director, 524-2024 by Councilmembers McCormick and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Port Control to enter into an amendment to lease agreement number CT 3001 LS 2024-06 with Marken Kami LLC to increase the leased premises located at Burke Lakefront Airport. Director.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, we are seeking to exercise the first option, or rather to amend the current agreement with Marken Kami for the lease of space under Ordinance 217-2023, passed by City Council on April 10th of last year. Currently, this lease covers approximately 1,769 square feet of space at Burke Airport's terminal for the operation of a podcast studio and affiliated space. Marken Kami would like to lease room 180, consisting of 178 square feet of additional space. As with the previous item, an independent third party conducted a fair market value appraisal in summer 2022, which set the annual rental rate. Further, the rental rate will be adjusted by CPI annually. All other lease terms and conditions shall remain the same. The term of this agreement remains for a period of 2 years with 3 1-year options to renew, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you. Director, why wouldn't we have just incorporated this in the new? You don't know.
Good question.
Your
I'm
lawyers
not
told you
certain
to
of
do
that.
it.
So
Okay.
Yeah,
So
two-
this is the same.
it's a separate, I mean, it's a separate agreement for different space. So that could be why.
Okay.
They have one.
But same user, same company.
correct, yes.
They're in good standing
Yes.
with you. Okay.
Absolutely, sir.
And so this is different. This is a podcast space?
Yes, in Burke's lobby area, if you go through there, you'll see an area right in the center of the,
Okay.
the lobby, which is where they hold their podcast, and they have some additional support space.
And we couldn't have done this all under one lease?
Sir, I'm not certain of that, but that's the way that it was brought
Okay.
forward.
All right. Number 2 for Mark Henkami. Do we have any questions about this organization and their lease at Burke? Hearing none. 5/24/2024 stands approved. Please sign.
We certainly will look to consolidate in the future if and when we can.
Okay.
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, it's not that big of a, it's interesting.
Understand.
All righty, 5/27/2024, an ordinance by council members McCormick and Griffin by departmental request. An emergency ordinance authorizing the purchase by one or more contracts of blast-resistant trash receptacles for Cleveland Hopkins International Airport for the Department of Port Control. What is a blast-resistant trash receptacle, Director?
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, so we are seeking authority to purchase these blast-resistant trash receptacles. They are pieces of equipment that are crucial components of airport security infrastructure and are seen at many airports along the terminal curbside frontage. Their primary purpose is to diffuse the force of an explosion by directing a blast upwards instead of outwards, with the mission of protecting those in the immediate vicinity. While we have these receptacles in place at CLE currently, they are in need of replacement.
Okay.
So we're procuring and installing new receptacles, and it will primarily allow us to continue to provide a strong line of safety defense along the curbside, but secondarily, it will also allow us to aesthetically improve the look of our front door. The anticipated cost is approximately $217,000, which has been budgeted. The funds are available for this purchase, and we currently have 45 of them. We will look to purchase roughly the same number
Okay.
going forward, and we ask for your approval.
Thank you, Director. This is one of those things you don't think about when you think of Homeland Security, or, well, I guess the Irish do, but those who know about that know about that. Okay, so these are these what, tested or suggested by Homeland Security, or how does that relationship work?
Well, we're required to have certain.
Is that FAA or?
It's through the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're required to have secure sort of line of defense, if you will, at
Sure.
the front of the terminal facility, and this is a part of that.
So heaven forbid something were to happen, an explosion would go, instead of spreading.
It's intended to take it
Go up.
straight up.
Okay.
Yes.
What questions do I have on blast-resistant trash receptacles for the airport? Hearing none, ordinance 5/27/2024 stands approved. Please sign. Do I have anything else for the director before I call out this committee? Anything for the director? You have miscellaneous? Do what?
Make something up.
All right, Councilman Slife has miscellaneous.
So, to my colleagues, if you didn't see, there was I think a frustrating op-ed or from the editorial board of the Plain Dealer this weekend about the airport, and they routinely question the city of Cleveland's ownership, I think, unreasonably. But I think one of the bases of the overall editorial was just about kind of crowded conditions at the airport, and I don't think that there's enough recognition that the problem is that the airport is 99 years old, was not built to handle the passenger count that it currently has, and that there's not enough of an acknowledgement of the work that's underway to resolve this issue in the long term. But I am hearing from people about the security lines. Now, for the listening audience, the City of Cleveland and TSA are separate. We do not hire TSA. We do not manage the security. But is there any information the director's able to share of if there's conversation with TSA about improving the flow? Because we're hearing people waiting. It's great that we're getting more airlines, but and flight options, but the consequence of that is that there's more people trying to funnel through security that is undersized for this passenger count. So I don't know
Yes.
if there's conversations with TSA about improving their staffing, improving their workflow, things that maybe could be done on the City of Cleveland side to make the process more efficient.
Director?
Yes, through the chair, to the council person, this is an area that we continue to be concerned with as the airport gets more popular, if you will, as we continue to see more passengers coming through the facility. We do meet regularly with TSA. TSA also meets regularly with the air carriers. One component that we don't control is how airlines schedule flights. We also don't control when people show up at the airport. We are putting out, actually this morning, we should have had a press release go out about the 100 Days of Summer, which is going to be reinforcing the strong recommendation for passengers to arrive at least 2 hours before departure for domestic flights, 3 hours for international flights. That's just to give yourself some additional time. There are many times throughout the day where there are no lines or the lines are minimal.
Right.
So it's difficult to staff for a, let's call it a 1 hour rush. That's speaking for the TSA. What I can tell you is that they do have a number of new personnel in the pipeline that are going through their onboarding. Then they have a training process that they have to complete, so it may be a bit of time before they begin to come online. TSA does believe they're in pretty good shape in terms of staffing overall, but yes, we could continue to have some pain points from the standpoint of the fact that the facility is simply undersized. We have 3 checkpoints, but they're not common in terms of their capacity. The south checkpoint is the largest in terms of the number of lanes. It handles the highest volume. TSA does do what they can to sort of augment the process, which would allow for some more expeditious processing. We also have members of our landside team that are out there, especially in the early mornings, trying to help keep an order to things. We are going to be looking into some options where we can maximize the space that we do have available. One of the areas is specific to the central checkpoint, but that's going to be a process that we are very seriously looking into and seeing if that's something that we could proceed with. It would have to be done in conjunction with TSA because it would require staffing as well as additional equipment. And then we're also going to be looking at ways that we may be able to create some additional space temporarily for the lines because the south checkpoint at times has a line that may come to the center of the building.
Yep.
And so again, that's simply because the south checkpoint is undersized. It can't really accommodate the peak demand, but it's something that we're very aware of, and we're going to continue working with our airlines and TSA to do as much as we can to minimize the stress point, if you will, that can be at times experienced there.
Sure. Thank you. And I mean, I think, and maybe it's only an anecdote, but it seems that there's an early morning rush of the kind of flights in the 6 o'clock hour, and a concern is that does TSA not open till 5 or 5:30?
Thank you for.
But the concern is that there's this huge rush of people, and that TSA doesn't open early enough to get that volume of people through security in time to get a 6 o'clock flight to Chicago.
Yes, thank you. Thank you through the chair to the council person. That is actually another thing that was announced in this morning's press release, that TSA is opening earlier in the early 3 o'clock hour now. And so people do have opportunity, especially if they're on those 5 a.m. flights, those 5:30 flights. Now TSA is open earlier because we're seeing some summer-esque numbers in spring in terms of
Good problem to have,
throughput.
Director.
It is. I mean, so
Yeah.
that shows the demand is strong, and that likely means summer is going to be stronger than it was last year. But yes, so they actually are backing up the opening times for the checkpoints because they're seeing such strong volumes coming through on a routine basis at the airport. So they're helping to the extent that they can in terms of opening earlier in the morning.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. And what was the
Certainly.
press release that came out this morning?
It's just speaking to the 100 Days of Summer.
Okay.
So,
if,
yeah.
Director, moving forward, if you can make sure that you share all those press releases with our team
Will
as
do.
they go out so that we're aware of them too.
Yes, Mr. Chair, certainly.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Anything
you.
additional for the Director before we kick him out of here? Councilman Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, just to go back for the piece of legislation we just passed, those blast-resistant receptacles, are they every single receptacle in the airport, or is it just the exterior
Just
can?
through the chair, just exterior. They're along the curb side in the
Okay.
front of the building. Yes,
Okay.
so not inside, though we are going through a process to replace the receptacles inside the terminal as well. But these are specific to the outside, the front, to protect the terminal facility itself from the curbside, from vehicles that are approaching, things of that
Okay.
nature. Yes, so only external along the curb, upper and lower levels.
So the internal ones will be still pretty much be the standard receptacles going forward?
They'll be standard. We're looking to increase the volume, though, the size of them, so that they have higher capacity, because we do have more people coming through. So, and also that they will have a consistent look throughout the terminal facility. So that's
Okay.
a separate effort, but we are also doing that as well.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilman, and congratulations on all the new flights that are being announced. A lot of new directs coming out of Cleveland. It's really great to see. And I don't know, I mean, this is up to you, but maybe you all want to sit down with the editorial board, because either they don't know about the master plan that's been publicized for 10 years, or they're choosing not to write about it. But all these issues have solutions, have plans, they're already being implemented, the bathrooms are getting redone, so I don't know, that's up to you, but they're clearly choosing not to write about all of the things that Cleveland is doing to address the very concerns
Well,
that
if
they're
I
putting
could,
forward.
may I on that
Councilman
point? It's clickbait. It's clickbait.
I understand that. I understand that. So that's up to you. That's your team director, but sometimes sitting down with them to re-review the plan that's been out there for 10 years to the public, it might be a good idea.
Point taken, sir.
And by the way, the new bathrooms, I haven't been there, but I've seen pictures. They look great. They look phenomenal.
Thank you.
So congratulations. And I will say this, I appreciate that you've added some color into them. I feel like so far often everything is white on white on white on white. It's very clinical looking in general in public facilities, so I appreciate that there's some interesting features in them. So
Thank you for
just
that
from what I can
compliment.
see. Thank you, Director.
Really
This
appreciate it.
Transportation Mobility Committee of Cleveland City Council is adjourned.